Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Super-Fanta-Fi. This being a show where I talk about TV shows of the supernatural fantasy and or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of The Crossing. So in this episode, we have Jude going back to Oakland, in particular to talk to his pal Martin to kind of figure out this whole Lindauer and Emma situation. Interestingly enough, I thought it before, but seeing him again made me kind of think it even more. Isn't the actor who plays Martin the same actor who played Cade in the final season of The Vampire Diaries? I think it's the same actor. It looks like it is, but nevertheless, just kind of boggling in the back of my mind. But this is a really nice episode because we finally get a full picture of what went down with Jude's whole situation. Like, basically, the dude he was working under, his commanding officer, was corrupt. His name is Doucette. He lost his partner, Corey, during the whole exchange because he found out, like, because Corey makes a joke at the beginning about, like, oh, yeah, maybe, he gets kickback from this. And then he's like, wait, what? He's like, no, I'm just playing. It's like, okay, sure. Like, Jude didn't think much of it at the time, but now he finds out, like, oh, the whole thing was, like, a setup. He brought up into this, like, made this, like, whole fake situation so that he could hire someone to end up killing Corey because Corey was talking, and knew too much. So for Jude, he went to Martin and someone else to kind of take action against Doucette. The sad thing is with this whole situation, we see Jude kind of popped pills. He kind of got addicted. And it's a very sad situation because he was legitimately trying to do the right thing. But obviously, it seems like he kind of got penalized for it, in particular with his ex-wife, Amy, well, wife at the time. Because for her, I mean, it's understandable her point of view, too, because it's like, no matter what the situation is, like, what you're doing is putting us in danger, too, especially when Doucette literally came to their place and had to sit down. Like, he knew exactly what Jude was up to. It was like, oh, we're family, right? And Jude's got like, yeah, we are. But at the same time, it's like, yeah, because she says a line that kind of makes you go, oh, that's kind of messed up to say. It's like, Corey, he was a friend. I care about him and everything. But it's like, he wouldn't want you to do this. It's like, get justice for him. Like, take down a corrupt, because you brought up good points too. Like, the fact of the matter is, this is about protecting the next cop. Like, what if the next cop looks into him too much and he takes him out too? It's like, this guy is corrupt. These are good cops out there and he's giving them a bad name. But at the same time, it's a situation of like, and it's something Martin had already talked to Jude about, like, obviously present day being like, put your family first this time. Because we learned that the reason why Jude ended up in the circumstances is because he ended up leaving because he was trying to protect his family. Like I said, at the same time, like, I'm sure, like, Amy didn't appreciate the fact that he was popping pills, so he probably wasn't in the best mindset. But for her, it's like the biggest issue to their family was him, not Doucette. Because I guess in her mind, it's like, you're the one to put us in this situation in the first place. But like I said, it sucks because it's like you're trying to do the right thing, but maybe it kind of all got misguided because of him popping pills and stuff like that. Because in the end, it didn't work. Doucette kind of, there was no indictment and there was no, like, pressing charges against him going forward because, double jeopardy situation. So he basically put his family in a spotlight for nothing. I mean, to be fair, we don't know what else could be happening while he was going. Like, obviously, he left to kind of take some of the heat off his family, is what he said. But who's to say there might not have still been Doucette keeping an eye on his family and stuff like that. It also can't be that easy because obviously a lot of cops will look at it as like, yo, like, Jude's kind of a rat. He's, he's turning on a cop who has nothing but a glowing, like, record and stuff like that. So I'm sure because a lot of their friends are like she was obviously they're cops. And so, like, all the families and friends know each other type of thing. So it can't have been easy for Amy or Oliver during that whole situation. Obviously, Oliver's probably young, so I mean, obviously he was young, so he didn't understand the whole circumstances. But like I said, it just kind of feels bad. I mean, because Jude finds himself in that exact same situation in this episode because he's trying to do the right thing, but it's like, doing the right thing isn't always like it can be costly in a lot of occasions. So because it turns out, like, Amy actually has no intentions of moving like she originally had talked to Jude about. And it's for him, it's like, you promise you're going to do that. But the fact of the matter is for her, it's like, I'm happy for the first time in 3 years because she's met someone. Like I said, to be fair, we don't know the exact circumstances. We saw glimpses of what happened 3 years ago. So we don't know what kind of person Jude was that kind of finally pushed her away. Was it his choice to go like, okay, I'm going to leave? Or was it like a common, because I mean, him and Amy are divorced apparently. So things weren't already that good to begin with. So it's probably like he was already divorced and he was like, yeah, the fact of the matter is I can still protect my family. I don't know. It's just, like I said, it seems like a sucky situation because it's like, I don't know. It's kind of like, shouldn't like you both be kind of on the same page with this whole situation? But I guess not. What was really interesting is the fact of the matter is when Jude went to that place that Martin was like, okay, here's this address, and Jude went there. He was like, yeah, something ain't right. He just because he thought back to the Corey situation because he had that feeling and he didn't act fast enough. I mean, that's why he's still alive, but why Corey wasn't. But the fact of the matter is, he noticed there's no security guard out front, the security cameras, and he was like, yeah, he felt like that was a setup. I don't know whether that was, but I kind of get the feeling like it most likely was. Cause what makes me wonder too is because we do find out Doucette has people who are higher up, like he has someone looking out for him. Immediately my brain made me go Martin, just because I was like, Martin's the one that kind of set up that meeting and he's the one that was kind of there. So I was like, maybe he was the one, but it's like, no, he brought Jude information on Lindauer. He was kind of like, yeah, this Lindauer dude is kind of suspicious. Almost like he could see the future, like he knew the future. It's like, yeah. So it's like, I don't know if Martin, it seemed like Martin's kind of potentially an up dude. So, excuse me. I don't know if this has anything to do with like Jude's current situation or not. It seems like obviously the Doucette situation seemed like that's probably just got to now give me a little more background into who Jude is. I mean, who's to say that still won't pop up in some shape or form? But I'm wondering, is it connected to the actual story? Because what if someone who's looking out for him is connected to the migrators, like from like 10 years ago? What if that's the whole situation? Like, what if there's kind of a Lindauer like looking out for Doucette because they know what Doucette's going to do in the future? Like he's needed for something. Like, I mean, because they have future knowledge that Jude doesn't. So he might be a corrupt cop, but it's like maybe he does something in the future that needs protecting. Or maybe it is just simply someone in that area just kind of looking out for him. Like, oh yeah, like he's not known to corrupt powerful person, like he's got powerful officials that are corrupted too. Like I said, there's still a possibility of Martin, but I don't think so. Like there's still like part of my brain is kind of like leaning towards Martin, so I don't know. I was actually quite surprised with like Jude set up the meeting and everything. I thought what Jude was going to do is he's going to set up the meeting and he's going to watch from quite a bit of ways and then see if Lindauer set anything up. Like, oh, Lindauer shows up with people or, what was the whole situation. It's like, nah, like Jude made the first move. He ends up, him and Rosario pull Lindauer over and it's like, oh, look what we have here. A gun with a file number filed up, with the serial number filed off on it. It's like, yep, he obviously was going to go after, because obviously Martin poking the bear obviously was going to draw a lot of attention. Like I'm sure like all of them have systems in play, especially in Lindauer's case, he has government systems in play to let him know like when someone starts kind of poking around. So who's to say this doesn't come back and bite Martin in the ass too, but we'll see. So Lindauer has been arrested, but I mean, whether that'll go anywhere or not, he's got powerful connections. Who's to say, some of those powerful connections don't also include some of the people from the future too that'll kind of have his back. So there's that problem. But you now knows like the truth about him. I'm curious like how hard him and Rosario are going to go at Lindauer about this. It's like, we know the truth about you. We know about the refugees and stuff like that. We know about the future. We know about Apex. Like, are you going to go? I mean, he makes the joke of like, oh, you think they're still going to be driving cars in 180 years? So obviously he plays at it there, but I don't know if he's going to outright confront Lindauer about it. So, I mean, the thing is, they made Emma disappear, so who's to say they won't do the same thing for Jude, too, especially him being a sheriff, so probably a little bit less questions, but there's also Rosario, too, so that kind of asking a lot of questions, which obviously Lindauer doesn't want things to kind of play out that way. That's kind of more so a last resort, but I mean, who's to say they won't be forced to, so it's going to be interesting to see what goes down when they I'm curious to see what happens with that interrogation next episode. But other things coming up this episode is the whole situation in the camp. Because Caleb starts noticing, okay, like their fence is up, people are just not really answering his questions. And so talking to Marshall's friend Gabe, it's like, nope, this whole thing like screams a cover up because there's been no news outlets being like, oh, this is exactly what's happening. It's like, oh, all the reports are saying like you came off like a Russian freighter or something like that. So Caleb sends some pics their way, and obviously like it blows up, because Marshall and Gabe put him on a dark web. Obviously, Lindauer got pictures of that. What's interesting to me is like, I mean, they haven't come down on them yet, but eventually it's all going to get led back to Marshall and Gabe, and I'm curious to see what potentially might happen to them, especially because Lindauer's in town too. So that's definitely going to be interesting. But it does bring up a lot of questions for Caleb because he's like, okay, like this place is being treated more like a prison. They're even searching for phones. It's like, why is it such a big deal that I have a phone? Like if anyone has a phone, which is Hannah's and stuff like that. So it's just kind of, everything's kind of starting to click. Like, yeah, things aren't necessarily right here. Like, Emma made all these promises and then suddenly she's gone. And it's like, none of you really have any power here, do you? So it's kind of like, it was kind of interesting because Roy kind of goes, no, 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 let Caleb speak. Because obviously with the whole Hannah situation, because it's like he knows Hannah's hiding something. So maybe he kind of feels like maybe this will kind of give him answers too. Because it's like, yeah, what is going, because even a lot of them, he's like the only one that has a decent idea about what's going on. But even then, he's only following orders from like Lindauer. He doesn't know about the whole Emma situation. I mean, he even went to Jude about the whole Emma situation. So he's not necessarily a bad guy. He's just a dude following orders, blindly following orders. I mean, as you know, Caleb kind of describes him as a dog, so, which I also feel bad for Hannah because he threw the phone in the water, which you see that look on her face like, what the F, dude? I mean, to be fair, they were going to confiscate the phone anyway, but it's still, also that kind of keeps them from knowing who they were contacting. But I mean, who's to say they don't, I mean, they could probably pull that up from the water, dry off the SIM card and stuff like that and get the information like that, potentially. If they want to. I don't know how crazy they're going to go about that. Lindauer's not in a position to kind of get in contact right now, but I'm sure he would probably dish out orders. And then to get that phone, I need to know who they're talking to on the outside. So we'll ultimately have to wait and see on that front too, like whether that they'll kind of go that hard and deep, like on that situation, hard and deep. I just had that. I'm super sorry. I did like that we did get to see, once again, kind of steeping towards that darker side of Caleb. He confronts Thomas because he knows Thomas sold him out. And then Thomas lies to his face and goes, okay, the reason why I did it because they made it seem like the phone was a bigger deal. It's like, yeah. So even in the face of Caleb, Lindauer still scares you more, which is interesting. Because he still didn't tell Caleb all the truth. Because the alcohol he got that said, well done, I was so certain that was, I mean, to be fair, I mean, someone on that team has to be directly linked to Lindauer, like, because for him to get that directly, it's like, well, they're not supposed to have anything. So it's like, why would you give them alcohol? Like they must have gotten orders from Lindauer to be like, yo, hook Thomas up, because it's like, yeah. Or like I said, not less someone on the guards actually knows exactly what's up. And the fact is like, oh, you came to us. Well, to be fair, like, because he's the one that ratted them out about the whole thing. So it's like nothing's supposed to happen, but it's like, hey, no questions asked, but I guess that was kind of his reward. So it probably wasn't even connect. He probably never got in contact with Lindell. It was more like one of the guards paying him off for being like, oh yeah, good job for letting us know what was up with the whole phone situation. But it's hard to say whether Caleb 100% believed him or not. I mean, the whole breaking his leg thing, kind of brutal. The question, I mean, it's like either it's like, well, that's for like selling us out. It's like, yeah, I get you're scared, but we're in this together, so screw you. Or because he knows, like, no, you're full of crap. And the next time you talk, it's going to be a lot worse. Which, like I said, it's interesting seeing that side of him. It makes you wonder how much does Rebecca know about his circumstances, So that kind of begs those questions too. So it's going to be interesting to see things going forward for this. I mean, obviously, they no longer have any contact from the outside. Not unless they get that phone. I mean, they're from the future, so I don't know if they know the kind of how to handle that phone situation. Maybe Roy seems like their only full-on ally in this situation. Because all he wants to do is kind of help Hannah. Like I said, I don't think there's anything going to happen between Hannah and Marshall. Like I said, I feel like that's a family situation. And I think, like, Roy and Hannah might be more of a thing. Did I say Harper before, or did I say Hannah? I'm kind of blanking. Nevertheless, I kind of go into autopilot sometimes when I'm talking. Nevertheless. Then there's an interesting side with Sophie. I thought was kind of interesting. How she, because obviously, like, you could tell, like, she was looking into the properties of Reese's blood and like what that could do, like her cells, what they could do. It's like, because especially her situation, because obviously her situation deals with her heart thing. I guess like she at some point had a heart transplant, but it's like maybe it's just something in her body, like every so often is like, I mean, the fact is she has that like chest scar makes it seem like it's definitely something related to her heart, but maybe it's like they have to operate on her heart. Maybe she can't get an actual transplant. Even if she did get a transplant, maybe it just doesn't last long because of her illness, whatever it is. It constantly like wrecks any heart they put inside of her. So it might be to the point where surgery might not be an option anymore. So she was looking, so for her, it's like, Reese, like all your blood, what you have in you could literally save so many lives. More so than anything, she's concerned about herself. I figured that'd be the biggest like concern for her, is because that's why she was like, when Lindauer kicked her off of everything, which Lindauer he definitely knows that she's lying because there is no cures for Mantle's disease. So I wonder, does he know about how she, I mean, because I don't think anyone really knows that because people know that the Apex are immune, but I don't know if anyone would know that they could use that as treatment. I mean, maybe that's something that's kind of known in the future as well, or maybe that's just something only Reese would know, but I don't know. But Sophie lost all her research, all the stuff that she gathered, which I don't know if, I mean, I'm sure there's probably samples of Reese's blood, definitely, because she needed another sample. So it's mixed in there too. So that's going to cause some problems essentially too. I mean, because Reese was hoping to get Sophie to kind of get her out. But what also makes me interested is the fact is that Reese is kind of like no samples, no DNA, no traces, which makes me wonder, is it because she doesn't want Apex to come into fruition too soon? Like, is she worried that basically if you start mixing that into other people's DNA, will that kind of add those markers to people's DNA to kind of potentially lead to them eventually becoming connected to Apex in some way? Like, eventually down their bloodline, the Apex gene would kind of continue, like, until it completely mutated their DNA into making them into Apexes completely. Is that the concern? Because Reese kind of makes it seem like she doesn't care. She just wants to live a life with her and Leia. That's all she cares about. But it makes me wonder, is that kind of potentially what that is? Like, she doesn't want to kind of get Apexes created any sooner. She just wants her and Leia to be able to live out their life here without any issues, away from it all. And then it's just kind of like, well, whatever happens afterwards happens afterwards. Like, I've lived my life with we also don't really know too much about the whole Apex's life expectancy. Like, will she live longer than Leia? Did they have normal human lifespans? I'd assume just because they seem more enhanced and stuff, like genetically enhanced, they did have longer lifespans. But I don't think that's come up yet, so. I did appreciate the fact that she went to that dude, Kurt, again, the dude who helped fish her out of the water at the beginning of the series. Went to some connections he had to get some fake IDs and passports for her and Leia, and brought the dude money. I figured as much when she was like, oh, I got it from a bank. And he laughed. I was like, no, she most likely got it from a bank. And she's like, oh, where'd you get all this? It's like, oh, yeah, she legitimately did get it from a bank because she robbed an AMT. An ATM. AMT. Just an ATM, dude. Which is interesting. So, but we also see that at the end of the episode, she gets locked and loaded because she knows the only way she's going to be able to get Leia is by herself. So that's definitely going to be interesting. Considering everyone in that camp is afraid of Apexes, the only ones who know the truth, I don't know if Caleb knows, Rebecca knows, but I don't know if she's told him anything yet. So that's, like I said, I'm very interested to see where this all takes us in the next episode. Like, especially like the Lindauer interrogation. I don't think that's going to go too far. Plus, with his connections too, he could probably bury Jude and all of this stuff. So I'm also curious to see when is Marshall going to find out the truth about this all having to do with time travel and stuff like that. Obviously, they did a very good job of disposing with Emma, but maybe it's a situation. Like I said, I'm still hopeful that Emma's still alive. I mean, like I said, everything's pointing to her being dead, but I was like, well, maybe they'll make it so that, like, nope, she comes back and she kind of operates like Thomas, but I feel like, no, Emma's not the type to kind of go with the thing, so it's like, yeah, she's most likely dead. Not most likely dead, is dead, but like I said, there's still part of me that's hoping, because it sucks. It's just kind of like, because she stumbled across the truth, and she was doing some investigating and she stumbled across the truth and it got her killed. It's kind of just a shame. So, like I said, I'm very interested to see what the next episode has in store for us. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.